As always, this is our Wednesday weekly webinar for Keystroke Point of Sale and Keystroke Advanced Point of Sale. It's every Wednesday at 10 o'clock. The same link every time, and I see many of the same dealers coming back week after week. Good to see you all here. Today we're going to talk about Keystroke and the Matrix inventory part of the program. The Matrix function is all included with the Keystroke Advanced POS. It is not part of the regular Keystroke POS. It's part of Advanced POS. Some of your clients may have been grandfathered in if they bought it in version 6, but it's not sold separately, so you do need Advanced POS. The idea about Keystroke's inventory matrix is to sell very similar items and actually stock and control the inventory quantity on hands and reorder points for individual items in a much broader sense. So if you're selling, let's say, clothing or t-shirts, for instance, you can have one stock number, let's call it the Keystroke polo shirt. You can actually control the inventory for different sizes, different colors, and possibly different styles. Some other examples, of course, are shoes, where you have different sizes, widths, and or styles or colors. And you also can use it in things like hardware stores. Many times you can set up inventory for, let's say, types of nuts, bolts, or screws, where there's different, let's say, head types, like a countersink versus a rounded head. There might be different pitches, which is like the different diameter / the pitch of the threading, and a finish like a zinc or a copper or a brass type of piece of hardware. It can also be used for other kind of hardware in hardware stores, like mounting hardware or brackets, or let's say doorknobs, for instance. In the matrix scene, we'll go through this in Keystroke in just a second. The matrix scene currently in version 7 holds up to 99 different categories, and each of those categories you can have up to 4 different categories. So just for one stock number, you can have over 96 million different variations for, let's say, stock number 1. Then you can have 96 million variations for stock number 2, and so forth. So it's definitely for the people that have run into ceilings in the past with Keystroke, where they're running into the maximum number of inventory records. This is a great tool of choice. I'll go ahead now and just open Keystroke up, show you my Keystroke is running. And let's go in and talk about how you set it up with Keystroke Advanced POS. First thing to understand that in version 7, and we have actually turned off Matrix Scene as the default. So in Configuration Manager, under the Settings menu, and then under the Database menu, is where we will find where you turn on Matrix Scene. I've already turned it on in this version here. This is the checkbox down here at the bottom left. And when I turn this on, it gives us some different parameters, and I'll go through these and show you how each of them work. The display mode we're going to use is the grid. There's 3 different types of displays. There's the grid, side-by-side list, or a cascading list. We'll show you the grid first, because that works most often in a 2-dimensional matrix where you have, let's say, size and color. If you have 3 or 4 different levels where you could, let's say, have a size, color, maybe it's about pants, it might be an inseam, those kind of things, then we can put it into a side-by-side list, and it might be better for your company. We're going to use the grid. By default, that's what the Keystroke is set to do. Secondly, the code separator. We just use a period here. This is a character that can be printed on barcodes. So if you use any of our standard, like code 128 barcodes, you can use a character like the period. If I hit insert, you can see that there is different choices, of course, numbers and letters. We try not to use any funny characters as the separator, as it could cause problems with trying to barcode some of these symbols. So we'll keep it at the period. That's kind of our default. For sales entry mode, we're going to use the single item mode. This means when you find an item, let's say a shirt, stock number 1 in our tutor sample data, you'll notice that it pulls up a grid and we're able to pick the item and see quantity on hands. You'll see for purchasing, though, we've got it set up for default as the purchase entry mode is multiple items. And this is where you get a blank grid. You don't see quantity on hands. So you go through and you say, well, I want to order 5 of extra larges, 5 larges, 4 smalls, and 1 extra small. Then you say OK to save that, and it populates your purchase order with all of those items. So you don't have to pull up the grid, pick an item, pull up the grid, pick a second item, pull up the grid and pick a third item. You can actually work on the grid to complete your order and have Keystroke populated for you. So I'll move on. Those are the only parameters we have here in the Configuration Manager under Settings and Databases. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go to Database Manager. This is how we use the program. So we're in Database Manager. We're going to select Inventory and Edit. Now again, in our sample data, we already have things like shirts set up in here, so you kind of can get the feel of this, and also it's great for a demonstration purpose to your clients. I'm going to select stock number 1. It's a polo shirt. Here is the main inventory screen, and down in the lower left we have a matrix table. The tables are linked to the different inventory items. I'm going to click on that field, matrix table. I'm going to hit the insert or F2 key. What you see here is the matrix tables on a standard setup. So if you just install Keystroke Advanced for the very first time, you would see size, size color style, pants, bolts, labels as different options. And this is how you would edit the different matrix tables. Let me go ahead and just, normally you pull up the list and you hit enter on this, but I'm going to highlight size color and hit the F3 key. When I hit F3, it talks about the table. This is table code C. This could be up to 4 characters. The name is called size color. And here we have 2 categories. It's a 2-dimensional matrix. We have different sizes and different colors. I can go ahead and click on the S for size here, hit insert, and this is where this has all been pre-set up, and I'll show you how you would add something later. This matrix category called size, I will highlight it and hit F3. These are different sizes that have been set up. Let's say I want to add a different element. Now keep in mind that this element code length is set to 1. If this is done so that Keystroke would know if I have a, let's say, large blue item, it's an L and a B, and it knows that large pertains to the size and blue pertains to the color. But if you run out of space with one dimension or with one element, you can go ahead and make it 2, 3, or 4 characters in length. So you might have a SS for super small and double X or 2X for double extra large. Let's keep going on this theme here. Let's say I wanted to add a new size. Let's say I've got a new size that's called extra small. I would go ahead and find an open space, or it can actually be wherever I'd like it to be. I'll hit the insert key. Let's say I put a 1 in as a code, and I'm going to call that extra small. And when I hit enter, then it's on the list as extra small. And maybe I'll even add another one. I'll just call this one double extra small for this example. And maybe we can have youth sizes if we wanted to start doing that too. So now my list, I've created 2 more sizes just by hitting the insert key. When I'm done with this element, this is just called size, and the elements are 2, 1, S, M, L, X, Y, and Z. Those are the different types of sizes. I'm going to say OK. Let's say the color is the next category. So I'm going to hit enter, by the way, to select the size. Now I'm in the category field. I'm going to select color. I hit insert, bring up the list. This is my category that I've already set up. Keep in mind there's tables, categories, and then elements. Tables assign the matrix elements to the actual item. So The category called color, I hit F3 on, and these are different colors. We've set this up in advance to have colors like khaki, green, denim, cream, white, red, blue, black. If I want to add a new color, I can, let's just say, hit Insert. Maybe use the letter P that's not been used yet. And maybe I'm going to call it pink. It is already used. Oh, it's used as purple. Sorry. Let's use the number, I don't know, number 1 again for pink. So now we have a color called pink that I just added to the list. Let me show you now how it's used in both Sales Manager and Purchase Manager, and then we can kind of talk about other kinds of tables. So I saved that. My category's been saved. I'm going to select C for color. So now at this time, I see that I've got everything set up. My table is size color. I say OK. I hit Enter to select it. I'll say yes to save the changes. This is a new feature we've added that says when I make changes to my matrix tables, it tells me what I've added and how I've added it to the different grid. This is actually stored later, so if you find out that somebody has manipulated your, let's say they changed it from size color to color size, Keystroke will go through every transaction and update it. So when I close this report, it's going to ask me if I'd like to save and apply these changes basically to all your transactions. This process can take some time. So kind of a rule of thumb for matrixing is get it all set up in place first before you use it for many years. But if you use it for many years and you want to change things, you can do that. It'll just have to go and touch every transaction that has a matrix item and update it. In my case, I just added stuff, so there really wasn't anything to be changed. So let's go sell this item first, and we'll take a look at that. I'm hitting F10 to save my inventory record. I'm going to Sales Manager. So here in Sales Manager, I'm going to just do a new sale. We'll just go ahead and select the cash customer. And let's say I don't know what the item is, or I'm not using barcodes at this time. I hit Insert to bring up a list of items. I know it's a shirt. And this is the, was I working on the stock number 1? There it is, the polo style shirts. When I hit Enter here, it brings up a list of my quantity on hands. And I'm going to move over to, let's say, an extra large denim color. Notice in the upper left, you see a .xd. Down the bottom left, you see 1.xd. That's what we call the matrix entry code. If you had a barcode printed that had a 1.xd, it would find this item immediately without even having to use this grid. The grid's kind of used for setting things up, but eventually if you're going to use barcode scanners, you're going to want to barcode the items, or you can use the manufacturer's barcode too. So let's just say I hit Enter on this. And actually before that, I'm going to take a peek. The large is 1LD. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Enter on this item. Puts a quantity of 1, shows me the polo shirt. Highlighting the item, I just moved back up to it. Down in the lower left in our detail box, it shows it's an extra large denim. Let's say I have a barcode here, and I'm going to pretend I'm scanning this in as 1.LD for a large denim. If I scan that in, it moves me right on to the next line, so you don't even need to use the grid if you're using other types of data entry. I'll up arrow again and just show you that it's a large denim on line 2. And it's an extra large denim on line 1. So I'll just go ahead and save this, and then we'll talk about purchasing and reorder points. Alright, let's just say we save that. Let me go ahead and move on to Purchase Manager and show you, by the way, I'll just reiterate, when I pull up a list of items, this is called single entry mode. This is where I have a two-dimensional grid and I'm arrowing through it. And if I have more colors or sizes that fit on one screen, there's a scroll bar at the bottom and you'll see it kind of scrolls across. And then I can find out my quantity on hand. So I can take a quick look on the single entry mode of what my quantity on hands are for all items. Let's go take a look in Purchase Manager. Purchase Manager has been set up in this case to use multiple entry modes. So let's say I want to buy some more shirts. Let's say I've already run my reports and I already know what I want to order. So if I put in stock number 1, I get a very similar grid, but notice that there's all the quantities are blank. So this is kind of a way where I can fill out this spreadsheet, and then by saving this by hitting F10, it'll move on and actually make the order for those. Well, I noticed I didn't have any extra smalls of anything, so let's go ahead and order one of the extra small denim and one of the extra small. Let's just do one of each along this line here of the denim. And maybe the red, let's say the blue is popular, so I'm going to do 3 of these, 3 of these, and let's say somebody's asked for some double extra larges. I'm going to order 5 of those. It's funny how the cursor is doing that. Okay, so now I've filled out this grid. Right now it shows me that on the right hand side the totals for each color, 6. The total for each size, let's say 4 extra smalls, 5 extra larges, and a total of 17 items will be ordered. So if I hit F10 here, you'll notice it populates the entire purchase order of the quantities I want to order. It brings in their cost. Let's say in today's time that the extra large blue actually cost me a little more and I want to sell it for a little more. At this time I can hit the F3 key to edit the item. Notice that the inventory screen is slightly different. This is called the matrix inventory screen. The null symbols are used to signify that it uses the same defaults as its parent. I'll hit F3 again and show you the parent, the main item. This is where we started. Hit escape once. I'm back to this item here. Let's say the cost for this item is actually $10.50 instead of $9.45. Here's a warning that comes up. It says, are you sure that if by setting the average cost to something that is different, it is going to track the average cost for this one stock number 1, differently on all the items. So it'll actually go put in $9.45 for every item, except for this one's going to have $10.50. So I'm going to answer yes. And the last cost is populated, and maybe I sell this differently. So here's the $20 price on the right hand side of this field, but maybe I need to sell these for $22. And I've got my database default screen set up to populate the other fields for me. I'm going to hit F10 to save this record. And now it's going to copy the average cost from the individual item over. So let's go back to this item. I'm going to delete this item off and re-enter it, or I could just tab over and change it, the cost, because it's preloaded. But let's say I wanted to, let's start over. Well, let's just take this off for instance. I'm going to put in stock number 1, and I know that the extra large blue, I was going to order 5, and let's just do 5 of these and 5 more of those. Well, I think I have a parameter set up. This should be at $10.50, and I think I'm using the last cost, or the vendor cost is what I have this set up with. So let's go ahead now. If we save this purchase order, and now I come back to the purchase order, I'm going to go ahead and just go ahead and receive all the items. I can use Shift F8 if you already are familiar with that to autofill the received quantities. And now I'll go ahead and save this item, or save this purchase order. Now let's just go ahead and fill that out and save it. So now if I look at the quantity on hand, let's go ahead and pick this one item, if I did it correctly. This right here shows a quantity on hand of 5 of the extra large blue. It shows me on the right hand side that I actually have 45 of these shirts. If I want to see the quantities of all those, I can easily do that, and I'll show you in a second. I just hit F3 to get to the main item. Down on the bottom of the screen, there's a matrix button. By clicking on that, this shows me my 45, my quantity on hand of 45. it shows me that I've got 4 khakis, I've got 4 green, and then all the way down the line. Here's my denim where I have 16 of these, and there's my 5 that I just ordered, and I have 3 and 3. So here's the grid if I wanted to look at it. And again, if I want to go sell this item, let's say I know that, excuse me, if I hit F3, this is, the elements is XB for extra large blue. So again, if I have a barcode set up to scan in 1.XB, I can sell that item without even having to go hunt for it. So back in Sales Manager, I'm selling an item. That's 1.XB. Forgot the dot there. Hit enter, and then it sells the shirt. I guess I didn't change that item. That's why my costs are different. I must have changed a different one, because that was the $22 I think I was going to sell that one for. So that's kind of a matrix in a nutshell. There's a lot of functionality to it. I'm going to go ahead and just open up the microphones here. If people have any questions, that would be a great time to ask. I'll go ahead and click on the unmute button. And tell me if anyone has any questions about the Matrix Manager, or if anything I didn't cover, I'd be happy to go over.
Mike, I have a question.
Okay.
In the ordering of items, is there any way to look at the previous purchases that you have purchased for items, like the lookup feature, to see the history of what items you've purchased in the past?
That is, I think you're talking about, we have, of course, reports can do that. I can show you some reports. You might be asking more specifically on the Keystroke Summarize History function. Is that right, Robert?
Yeah. When you're actually going to order these items, if there's a way while you're in that purchase order function right there to look up the history of what you've purchased in the past.
Of that individual item, no, there isn't at this time. That is on the wish list. Currently, it only uses regular stock numbers, not matrix items. Of course, you can run a report on this. For instance, if I wanted to go to Report Manager.
Yeah, but then you got to get out of Purchase Manager to do that.
Right, so that is on the wish list.
I have clients that want it when they are in that function to be able to bring up that history and see what they've purchased in the past.
Right, and that's currently not in Keystroke, but that is on the wish list.
Please add it, because I have people wanting it desperately.
I understand, and what Robert's asking is about the summarize history function in Database Manager, where you can actually pull up a grid like I showed in Sales Manager of how many of stock number 1s I've purchased or sold. Yeah. But you can't see how many large blue, khaki, and so forth that I've sold. But you can run the matrix history or analysis report. For instance, I'll just show you that since it did come up. I do want to give you at least a solution. But you do have to leave and come back, and I'm going to go ahead and skip the non-matrix items only the purchased items. And let's see what this looks like for today. Ta-da. So anyhow, here's what we got is a report. This report shows me the codes here, and we can actually populate this field. I think we have this report already there. Let me just double check. There it is, with element names and totals. Get ready for that. So that report will show you what Robert would like to see on the screen with just a couple of keystrokes. It says, oh, during this date range or time frame here, I bought 3 extra small blues, 1 extra small denim, and so forth. He'd like to pick an item like a small blue and find out in what months I purchased what quantities, and that's on the wish list.
That's what they want. They want to know the months that they purchased it, because they may not have purchased this item for 6 months ago.
Sure, understood. Okay, good question though, and that's why we ask for your input, because we can add features that people want. What else? Any other questions about matrixing? Alrighty then. Well,
You might.
okay. Well, thank you very much. I'm sorry, am I cutting someone off? I hear someone asking a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mike, can you show us the other than the grid matrix?
Oh yeah, thank you. Good point. Let's go back to Configuration Manager under Settings, Databases, then under the Matrix Parameters on the lower left. Let's set the display mode to be a cascading list. And this probably would work best with a table that is three-dimensional. So let's go ahead and start that. I'll go back to Database Manager. Let's select Inventory and Edit. And let's say this stock number 2 is a three-dimensional matrix. So I picked stock number 2. I'm going down to the matrix table on the bottom. I'm hitting Insert. And this works best with things that are, let's say, I'll just pick the pants. Pretend this was a pants, not a shirt. Anything that's over 2 dimensions, it's kind of easier to use the other options. I'm going to hit F10 here. I'm going to now click on Matrix. So this is going to say, okay, here's the first. I want the relaxed fit. I hit Enter. It's going to show me the different waist sizes. 40. Here's the different inseams. 36. And then here's the color. And while I'm on this area here, I can actually change the order by hitting F9 and pick it in a different order. So maybe I want to pick the waist first and then go, okay, this is the inseam is a 32, the color is going to be white, and this is a narrow fit. So when I hit Enter on that, it's going to show me the one item that's the here's the codes. The element codes, as you can see, are still 1 characters, and there's 4 of them. It's a narrow, 32, 32 white, and so forth. And so the same can be done when I sell the item. Again, using a barcode would find the exact item, but let's just say I'm selling item number 2. And if I want, I can hit F9. I changed it to maybe finding the waist first. It's going to be a 40 waist. 34 inseam. Then I'm going to pick, it's a white in color, and it's a bell bottom. And then it found that item. Of course, there's none in stock. I didn't buy any of those items. And so now we're back here. That was a good question. I told you I'd do that, and I forgot all about it. That's the cascading list. If I change the Configuration Manager, I'll just quickly show you again the difference. And the side-by-side list is almost the same as the cascading list. Let's go do the pants again in Sales Manager. Here's where this comes up, where so now I can start arrowing them over and leaving the list up. And just by using my left and right arrows, I can pick different items, or I can hit F9 and change the order and so forth. So just a different way to look at it.